In other news, it appears that Marsh Haven is on the up, as those good eggs over at Mondo Corps have done it again by announcing 150 new jobs once they open the doors to the Phoenix Plaza. Various boutiques and offices, the plaza boasts a new exhibition space.
Can you hear me?
Famous Pete Mummy, and a much-needed cash injection into local secondary school, Anna Kingsford College.
Hello. Look, if you can hear this, then maybe all is not lost. Marsh Haven is not the place that you think it is. It has secrets, and there doesn't seem to be a sane adult in 100 miles of the place who wants to know. Look, just spread the word. The kids are doing the best they can, but the country needs to know. The world needs to know that...
Brits on Bikes is an actual play podcast powered by the Kids on Bikes RPG. Listen on your preferred podcatcher and follow us on Twitter @Brits_bikes. Keep on biking.
Welcome one and all to Merely Roleplayers, where theatrical people play role-playing games. My name's Matt, I'm your compere for this season, and also around the table we have Ellen.
Hello.
We have Natalie.
Hello.
We have Strat.
Hello.
And focus of today's episode, welcome back Helen.
Hi.
Helen, you've only done one season with us, so people won't have heard your voice for quite some time.
No. Hi, everyone.
You want to remind us which season people might remember you from?
So I was in a town called Amnesty. I was Helen Stetson, and yeah, I just was a general badass.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
Robbed the bank. Not in the thing, but...
Knew everybody's secrets.
Knew everyone's secrets.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, you and Ellie made quite the dream team on that one. Ellie definitely talked a lot about that story and her partnership with you in her Backstage episode for this.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yep, the dynamic duo with your grenades.
So good. Under the skirts.
Yeah.
And your cheese.
Oh, yeah.
Cheese, yeah.
So because you've only got one character sheet and this season is all about switching between different versions of yourself, we're going to give you another one. Because you actually, technically, even though you weren't physically around the table, you do appear in one of our other seasons.
Yeah.
Thanks to Richard Stratton over here, who brought you into Codename Mosaic in a kind of epilogue.
Yeah, well, Poppins Protocol.
Yeah.
So she was there in the... Came and got me, and then a bit extra in the prologue, which I kind of left with some... But yeah, thinking of that prologue now, I'm like, oh no, are we making a baddie?
Well, we'll find out.
Yeah, it's funny, when you brought in the Poppins Protocol, when I heard it for the first time, it made me cry. It was a strange thing to have been, by choice, brought in by you when I wasn't there. It was nice.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it.
But yeah, it's interesting to look more at who that person is.
Yeah.
Considering they were created without my knowledge.
Yes, you get to take some control over that now. So we have a Codename Mosaic classic character sheet for you, which we're going to fill in now so that you've got that choice when we get into the game. So, one thing that you're going to need is a code name. Mm-hmm. Have you thought about that at all? Or shall we do that last so that there's a bit of time?
We could use Banks, I suppose.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Should we go with that? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
well, let's pencil it in, and if you think of something else later, then that can go in instead. And then we get a classic Merely Roleplayers stat selection process now. So the 4 stats for Codename Mosaic were subtle, suave, smart, and blunt. So suave is how charismatic you are and how good you are at lying your way into situations and charming your way past security and that kind of thing. Subtle is how good you are at sneaking and doing the sneaky spy stuff. Smart is fairly self-explanatory and is generally used for like planning, hacking, putting mysteries together, that kind of thing. And then blunt is whether you're like that kind of James Bond type of spy who is a blunt instrument who shoots, punches, and explodes their way through situations. So we have a 2, a 1, a 0, and a -1 to distribute. And the way we do this on Merely Roleplayers is everybody else around the table picks your stats. What does everyone reckon for Helen?
Can I see your Town Called Amnesty stats?
Of course, yeah. So for that, we had wild, stoic, sly, and just. And I had 1 for wild, 2 for stoic, 0 for sly, and -1 for just.
So I think you got some progression within that.
And so I think I started with 0 for sly, and I picked up a sly at some point. Does that help?
Yeah. Well, I was just intrigued. Obviously, Strat is the one who knows you best and will probably be able to kind of best pick those. I don't know, I just, given that you had 2 and stoic, I was thinking subtle.
One of the least subtle people.
I can feel you being subtle and planning, but I will concede to...
So I think of stoic as being like more a combination of smart and blunt, just like sticking really firm to your beliefs.
Yeah.
I immediately think blunt should be a 2. I think the others could be could be all over the place, but Helen has a very direct way about going things, and if she was a spy, she would definitely be the just going to punch you in the face until you tell me something, rather than the try and charm or seduce information out of you. There would be no messing. Plus, the way that she plays video games is very much run in and press the attack button as many times within any period until everything is dead. So,
a woman after my own heart.
So I would say blunt 2. And then the other one, so it's a 2, a 1, a 0, and a -1, right?
That's correct.
So I'm looking at mine, and I must have leveled up some stuff as well, so I was trying to work it out. But I'd say blunt 2, I'd say smart, if it was me, smart 1, suave 0, subtle -1. But feel free to debate that. I don't want to just go, I'm married to her, know her, therefore I get to choose. That doesn't seem like necessary.
I'm happy to concede to your superior knowledge.
Feels better than instant judgment.
I love that everyone's like, too blunt. That works great, and because that I feel like that makes sense.
So as usual, Helen, if you don't feel like that distribution reflects you, or you don't feel like you would have fun playing with that distribution, you can swap 2 over.
I'm going to go with 1 on suave and 0 on smart. And that puts subtle at -1.
Great.
Cool.
Also, as Codename Banks, you get some sort of special move and also a situation in which you're in your element and get a +1 when you're in that situation. So bearing in mind what we know about your stats and the little that we know about this version of you in this spy story, what do you think those might be? And they can be sort of skills that you would have, or they can be kind of in previous seasons we've had sort of the more narrative powers, like being able to turn up in the nick of time at a situation as well.
So I suppose maybe something with showing up at the last minute, just running late, as being in my element if I'm late to the party.
That's quite a funny one. I quite like that.
And I feel like I should also have something to do with fighting, because I don't know, I'm mean or vicious.
I think like in that one I remember, was it Vicky had like a situation where she got +1 if she was hand-to-hand combat, weapon. So that was one.
I think
that
hers was hand-to-hand. You could also have, if you want to be more of a brawler, you could have like you're in your element when fighting off multiple people at once, or something like that.
Let's do that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. I think brawler's a good name for that.
And the special moves, they're coming in the nick of time.
Yeah, so it could just be the Poppins protocol.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, like from the story, that...
Yeah, I mean,
that's
it's sort of...
Although that was more of a plan.
To make that work, you would sort of need to not be in the scene. Or I guess it could be more of a... we could work it more like an escape plan kind of thing. That, like, you've always got a way to extract yourself.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good.
Yeah,
Let's go with that.
Rather than having to engineer circumstances where you're not there so that you can rescue them.
Yeah,
we could just have, like, you always have an extraction planned, and you can always just roll to see whether your extraction plan happens.
I think that was one of the special moves that
somebody's
Chris
had it. Somebody's had it in some season or other.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Strategy.
Yeah,
that was what it was called.
Yeah,
strategy.
I think that was Chris.
Is that okay if I duplicate that?
Absolutely, yeah.
I love the idea of, at some point, Chris and I being in the same thing and both having it. And just being like, let's go! Go my way! Go my way! Yeah.
And do you have any ideas about, like... So, Strat left us on a cliffhanger with this version of you, where I think the last thing that he had you say in that season was the sinister code phrase that all of the bad guys had been using to, like, activate their sleeper agents. So there was definitely a hint that you were kind of mixed up in that plot. What do you want your, like, spy person to be like?
Yeah. I mean, it seems like I'm just the type that goes in, guns blazing, makes a big mess, gets out really quickly. Which doesn't sound very useful as a spy.
This version of the service's Bond, basically.
Yeah. Could you be a double agent and you're playing both sides to your own advantage?
Yeah.
Maybe.
What I was trying to do is suggest that you may have been mind controlled.
Right.
Because that was a thing that people who had been mind controlled, that was a thing that they were saying that they could remember. So that was the kind of thing I was trying to do with that. But you don't have to do that.
And we don't have to decide this now. You can decide. You can work it out in play if it comes up. But if you have an idea, then...
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, it's a tricky situation.
It's probably not a good idea that you're being mind controlled by some baddies. So maybe let's. I mean, that could be an interesting thing to overcome.
Could I just have been winding you up?
Yeah, that sounds very true to character. That's exactly the right thing.
Ellie had been in touch with me the whole time, and you didn't know it. And she was like, "Tell him this."
This character is becoming more and more like you the more we create it.
Great.
All right, well, you're ready and set up with that character, or with that sheet. In the season that you did play, let's just take a look back at that as well, so we've got a little reminiscence about your time on the show so far. Are there moments from A Town Called Amnesty that still stick with you particularly?
So the two things that stand out for me are Ellie dragging that person behind her horse, and Strat caving that person's head in.
So much fun.
Yeah,
I've got so much mileage out of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the things where I'm just like, how did we end up? But particularly with the Strat caving that person's head in, it just felt like that was the moment where, like, maybe we were on a roller coaster and we were just going up and up quite slowly before that point, and then suddenly we dropped, and that's when we started really spinning all over the place.
It was a flash point, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
I think everyone just went, "Oh, we're doing violence now."
I enjoyed the kind of the climax of that season. You, Helen, were quite focal in the final takedown, that it sort of ended up being the other three became like your support as you sort of stoically strode ahead on a horse, aiming your rifle, taking aim at this sniper on the mine.
Yeah.
Which felt like a very, like, especially as it's down the main street of the town, felt like a very Western image.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I did. Yeah, I did. I enjoyed that. And I think what you said, Strat, about us going, we're doing violence now, in a way that helped me just warm up and have a direction and an aim with what we were doing, because that was an interesting series where we did almost get stuck and we had the discussion. So that moment where we were just like, oh God, what have you done? That was the big moment for me.
This might be a bit more difficult because you've only actually played one of these characters, but which one do you feel like is closest to the real you and which is the furthest away?
I think the Amnesty person is more me. Mm. I think I don't know if I'm truly this much of a blunt instrument with Banks.
Yeah, in video games, but maybe not in real life.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Well, that'll give you a +1 for Amnesty.
Yeah.
And a -1 for Codename Mosaic.
Sure.
And then final question. We've done 9 seasons. You've done 1 and cameoed in another. Are there any of those other seasons that you wish you could have played in? And are there any other genres that we haven't done that you would like to get involved in at some point?
So I really enjoyed Parallax. Mm-hmm. I wasn't initially interested in being involved, but then as it came out, I just thought it was really amazing, and I think I liked the emotional questions that people got asked. So I think that I think I probably would have enjoyed that if I had done it.
It's a good system for that. Shout out to Adrian Doone, who designed that system.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm. Other genre-wise, it would be like a noir type spy situation rather than this Bond-esque spy situation that happened. But
okay, so more like a Le Carré or a kind of Graham Greene kind of spy thing, rather than the Fleming.
Yeah, I think. I think I would like that, just because I could really play on the idea of knowing everybody's secrets and it being like complicated in that way. So yeah.
Cool.
Those were my thoughts.
Well, perhaps we'll do that at some point, maybe in this session, maybe in another one. In the meantime, Helen, I think you're ready to play.
Yeah, thank you.
You've been listening to Merely Roleplayers. In this season, you'll hear Ellie Pitkin, Alex Pankhurst, Josh Yard and Dave, Chris Starkey, Chris Buxey and Chris, Helen Stratton, Ellen Gould, Natalie Winter and Strat, all playing various versions of themselves, along with special guest appearances by Ellie Pitkin as Nia and the Space Jam Continuum podcast's Chris McLennan as Candice. I'm Matt, and I edited and produced the season, wrote and performed the theme music, and designed and ran the game we're playing. Like most of our games, this one's powered by the Apocalypse. You can find more games in this genre at apocalypse-world.com/pbta. If you enjoy Merely Roleplayers, let us know with a review or rating on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or wherever you do your listening. You can also find us on Twitter at Merely Roleplay, at facebook.com/merelyroleplayers, and at merelyroleplayers.com. Merely Roleplayers is an independent production in association with Blackshaw Theatre Company. Join us for more drama next episode.